Asus has launched the ZenFone Max with a whopping 5000 mAh battery. Not only will it last for several days of heavy use, you can even use it to charge other devices in an emergency. Other specs are so-so: a 5.5-inch 720p display, either 2GB or 3GB of RAM depending on market, a Snapdragon 615 chipset, 13-megapixel rear camera, though with a dual-tone flash and laser autofocus, 5-megapixel front camera with wide-angle lens, plus 32GB of onboard storage and microSD. Not bad overall though, and a refreshing approach to staying up and running. This will launch in India first, it seems. If there's one company you can count on to shake things up with something different for each year's flagship, it's probably LG. They like taking risks, and that's fine, but after evaluating their latest, the G5, it does seem as if they went a bit too far this time. Unpleasant edges, a wacky replaceable bottom concept, a dual camera that's, well, a bit gimmicky. The otherwise top-end G5 just doesn't feel like a flagship some of the time, and that's a crying shame. The problem is that the LG G5 here, full of new ideas, is on the market at the exact same time as the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge and the HTC 10 here, not to mention the usual iPhone competition. You see, the others are like jewels in the hand. You can fondle them, enjoy the premium metals, the glass, the smooth edges, the chamfers. True, they're slippy as heck, and you're probably going to put them in a case while out and about, but you know, and you can appreciate why you just spent £500 on this. They're prime slices of high tech. In fact, so is the G5 in terms of raw technology, but it's not packaged anywhere near as well or as cohesively. Pick the G5 up and it's solid enough, yet it doesn't feel like metal, and that's because it's a strong metal unibody for the most part, but covered in plastic, presumably for durability reasons, maybe to hide the external antenna, who knows. The finish doesn't show fingerprints though, which is good, but it's vulnerable to scratches. But the plastic coating isn't my concern here. The biggest problem by far is the fit and finish down at the bottom. Now this is detached by pressing an annoyingly almost flush button and then gripping and pulling hard from the opposite corner, pulling the main battery with it and giving you a chance to replace this when it gets worn out, or on the fly when empty. If you have a charged spare standing by, it's quite hard to get off, but it does come off, and you just pop on the spare and it clips in. There we go. Which is all fine. There are two extra friend modules, that's alternative bottom sections currently. One with extra bulk to act as a camera grip with a proper shutter button and a zoom control, plus an extra top-up battery built in, and one with a larger speaker, high-end DAC, and second 3.5mm headphone socket for music fiends. Neither of these were available to me for the review, but equally neither are exactly essential. The camera add-on doesn't really affect results at all. It's just about ergonomics, and the music add-on is rendered a bit pointless because the audio from the standard G5 headphone jack on the top is already excellent. Now, having an end section that pulls off here and then clips on again is something that you could probably make work on a budget handset, but it falls down rather here. As I gently move my thumb down the left front of the G5, there's a truly horrible sharp point at the top left of the clip-on section. This sits proud of the phone's Gorilla Glass 4 screen and annoys me every single time I pick the phone up. It was suggested to me that this was just a defective sample, so I got another G5 in from another supplier, and the exact same sharp, annoying corner. Gah! Around the back, there's a step up of at least 0.5 millimeter when moving one's finger or thumb from end section to main body. Now, add in that the eject button itself is quite sharp and not flush. Add in that when held up to the light, you can see small gaps either side of the end section, and you'll rightly get the idea that LG's risk in going with the modular replaceable bottom idea isn't going to sit well with expectations for a smartphone that you've just paid £500 for. Rubbing salt into this wound is that LG has chosen to go all round with a stepped design. The back curves gently into some bare metal foundation, and there's a jarring step across to the smooth painted outer rim of the phone. Compared to other top flight smartphones in 2016, there's a feeling that you're holding, well, a kind of prototype and not something which has been on the market for a couple of months. It's clicky too. The power button on the back, which doubles very well as a fingerprint sensor, moves with the feel and sound of something right at the bottom end of the market. Here's a demo. You can probably hear that. There's no dampening of the click, no attempt to make you feel like you're powering on or off an expensive piece of high tech. And all of this just isn't good enough at this end of the market. Even £100 phones like the Lumia 650, the Moto G and many others are built well and designed to be a delight in the hand. And this, well, it isn't. But can the technical capabilities of the LG G5 make you forget about any cosmetic concerns? Well, maybe. The G5 is certainly highly specified. Powered by a Snapdragon 820 chipset and 4GB of RAM, just as on the HTC 10, the G5 is certainly speedy. At no point did I notice any lag or slowdown. Battery life was exemplary too, with the 2800 mAh cell giving at least a day of heavy use. Plus there's that facility to power down and put in a new charge cell if you need to, or plug in a quick charge 3.0 compatible charger for the same super speedy top-ups that we saw on the HTC 10. The eagle eye will have spotted that the charging and data port is USB Type-C and also part of that removable bottom section. One of the reasons why any friend modules here will be relatively expensive, since they have to include these original components, or better, by necessity. There's plenty of storage too, with 32GB integrated and with a micro SD tray in the right-hand side pop-up caddy. The 5.3-inch display, IPS QHD, is terrific, as you'd expect, albeit slightly smaller than the G4's. Oddly, QHD, i.e. 1440p, still seems over the top for an LCD panel at this size, but really high-resolution content, for example 4K media from YouTube, is incredibly crisp, and this seems to be the 2016 standard, so why not? Playback of media is helped by the really rather good mono speaker. Yes, again in the bottom, it's right up with the best. This is full volume. Other than that there isn't a stereo arrangement, Moto X style, I had no complaints in this department. There's nice top end, pretty good bottom end, pretty good volume. Well done, LG. Aside from the removable modular bottom section, the G5's biggest marketing bullet point is the dual camera system here up at the top. One is of normal angles and dimensions, the other is configured with a wide angle, almost fisheye lens. It certainly works well enough, and I love the way you can zoom in or out of your subject scene with the software seamlessly transitioning between the two cameras as needed. Of course, with the wide-angle camera only being 8 megapixels, you do lose a lot of central detail when you veer into wide territory, but for arty landscapes or large objects destined for Twitter or Facebook, it's absolutely fine. The OIS-equipped 16 megapixel main camera is certainly very capable, but it's similar to that for the G4 last year. The latter raised the bar across the industry, and all other flagships have risen to match. So there's actually nothing out of the ordinary for 2016 here. Indeed, the G5 camera is bested a lot of the time by the likes of the Microsoft Lumia 950, the Samsung Galaxy S7, but it's good enough, easily good enough for most discerning users. The laser focusing is very fast, the shot-to-shot time and burst mode. The camera interface still has the excellent breakdown into simple, auto and manual modes, the latter going right up to everything being adjustable. And of course, there's the option to shoot in the disc guzzling RAW mode, if needed. The front-facing camera is 8 megapixel, though not wide-angle. You'd have thought wide-angle would be needed more on the front. Just thinking out loud, LG. Running the LG G5 is Android 6.0.1, the latest battery-efficient marshmallow, though you do get LG's UX 5.0 skin over the top. This came at first somewhat controversially with no app drawer, so all app icons had to live somewhere on the home screen panorama. But after lots of negative comments from reviewers and users, a system update was pushed. It now gives the choice of home, easy home, or home and app drawer when the home control is first pressed after the update. I'll admit that Android does feel more familiar, as here, with sparse home screens and an app drawer, but I was also prepared to get used to the original arrangement. I rather wish LG had stuck to its guns here, as Huawei has. Still, it's up to the end user which system they plump for. One thing that Android phone makers have taken from Nokia and Symbian and/or Windows Phone is the idea of an always-on display here. As on the Galaxy S7, the G5 has an optional always-on time and date, or message of your choice and date if you prefer, plus some notification icons. This being an LCD display, there's a moderate power drain to keeping the backlight on all the time, even at low power. It's of the order of 1% per hour, which means that over an 18-hour day, you'll be allocating up to a fifth of your phone's battery capacity to this feature. Happily, if you don't find it essential, then it's trivial to turn off in settings. LG's Android skin is definitely getting lighter each year, but there's still quite a bit added over a typical Nexus Android phone. The notifications and quick setting shade here is fully customizable. Just add the icons, toggles and sliders that you want to see. Plus, there's the usual for 2016 theme engine, albeit with no themes actually supplied out of the box. For these, you have to dive into LG's Smart World mini store, where compatible themes exist going right back to Android 4.0 days. Wow. LG have scaled back the applications they bundle to, though some of LG's own creations persist, including their versions of Calendar, Music and Gallery, so still some confusion for new users, though most of the Google first-party applications are tucked away in a folder by default. Notable extras include bundles installs of Instagram, Facebook and Evernote, with LG Backup, LG Friends Manager and LG Health Plus, LG staples like Quick Memo Plus and File Manager, rounding things off. Look, in the past, I've championed phones with removable batteries, rightly and for the obvious reasons. I've also championed modular phones, for example, the Fairphone 2 recently, despite all its caveats. And I absolutely recognise that every form factor, every design involves some compromises. For example, needing a peel-off back in the archetypal Galaxy S5's case, or a slide-off screen in the Fairphone 2's case. And in a better design world, LG could have made the LG G5's bottom section work, but trying to butt up two hard sections repeatedly with no wear, no tolerance problems causing steps and edges and sharp points was always going to be nigh on impossible. That's why plastic was invented at LG. Have one of the halves be an obviously different material and texture so that the user's fingers would be expecting discontinuity. Heck, have the bottom bit in leather, as on the G4. My question previously was whether the raw specs and functionality here are worth putting up with the design and hardware quirks. Well, maybe, if you fancy that wide-angle camera perhaps, or if you really truly need a phone with a genuinely user-replaceable battery. I never thought that I, Steve Litchfield, would be the one to eschew functionality because of cosmetics. But the G5 has crossed the line here, in my opinion.